Namaste. Good afternoon. I thought this afternoon I'd talk a little bit about the two different types of samadhis and what happens in the end of the journey. People always ask me, do you meditate? Are you meditating? Well, one enters into an ongoing meditation. There is no needing to sit down and do the act of meditating because one is always within this meditation, this Sahaja state, effortless. Okay. Now there are two different types of samadhis that happen toward the end of the path. One is where there's that distinct falling away, which is called the Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now, in the Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi, what happens is when one enters into that, the ego self vanishes. One is not seeing a world. One is not cognizant of the transient realm, Dvaita realm. In that moment, the only awareness that is there during that time, which is a timeless state, absolutely timeless. When one is within that, one has no recognition of time. Nothing is seen with the five senses, okay? It's beyond those five senses. And one is simply within that reality of that which some will call Parabrahman, or absolute, or is, okay? That's all that exists there, okay? And at that point, that's that death of ego self. That illusion is broken. Now, the Nirvikalpa, the Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi is a transient state, okay? Because again, in that state, in that cognition, in that meditation, there is no seeing of anything in this realm of existence. Okay, that's disappeared, that's gone, along with the ego self, and at that point one knows that I've never been born. I'm that eternal unborn, that one that brings existence into being, runs like through a thread, through the thread of all existence, yet is not touched by any of it, okay? So that is what happens in that Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now, what remains if the mind does not reroute? Okay, some can come out and have a rerouting of mind. But if the mind does not reroute, one enters a Sahaja Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now, the Sahaja Nirvikalpa Samadhi is a state where the silent awareness of the subject is operant, along with full use of the human faculties. In other words, one is simply within that absolute of is. That is the consciousness that remains. Okay? Simply conscious of that Advaita realm, of simply that is. Okay? That is. One cannot even say one, it's the zero. I call it the zero, not the one, because in one there's division. One has already entered into a division of Dvaita. So it's beyond one. One says the zero. Also, which can be representative of the linga. If you see the linga, it's in a zero. Okay, the pregnant void, that which brings all into existence. Okay, one is simply aware and living within that. Okay. Now, these Sahaja states and these type of Sahaja practices are tantric in nature. They've been important in Indian and Tibetan Buddhism spirituality. The many Sahaj practices were in Bengal, arose in Bengal, as does Kali. Most of the Kali practices are also in Bengal. Okay, so they have a very close interconnectedness if one understands that type of the Tantric Path. Okay. Also, the Naths, the Nath tradition. Sahaja is one of the 4 elements of the Nath Sampradaya. Okay, so Sahaj meditation and worship, again, is very prevalent in Tantric traditions. Okay. So I'm going to read a little part what Mahendranath wrote. He's one of the main people in the Nath tradition, and he said, man is born with an instinct for naturalness. He's never forgotten the days of his primordial perfection, except in so much as the memory became buried under the artificial superstructure of civilization and its artificial concepts. And so again, that is what this path that I have brought to the world consists of. Neti, not this, not this, not this. Getting rid of all the artificial superstructure, or what I call the soap opera of your life, that you've gathered and collected over lifetimes, and you run it around as if it's real, as if it's a reality, where it's really an illusion and delusion that one is stuck in that keeps one in the divided mind. Okay? So Sahaj means natural. The tree grows according to Sahaj, natural, spontaneous, and complete conformity with the natural and natural laws of the universe. Okay? Nobody tells it what to do or how to grow. It has no swadharma or rules, duties, obligation incurred by birth. It only has svabhava, svabhava, or its own inborn self or essence to guide it. Sahaj, that's natural, which when established in oneself brings the state of absolute freedom and peace. Okay, that's when one enters, moksha, has that wisdom, that gyan, okay, has entered into that state of Sahaj. So what happens in that state of Sahaj? The mind stills. Okay, one has entered that seed essence. One meditates without needing the act of meditation. It's ongoing. One is no longer driven by the karmic mind and the drama. One now enters a flow, okay? Spontaneous action, not mental constructed action, okay? So, again, that they say that the culture of body through the process of Hatha Yoga was paramount of importance in the Nath sect and found in the Sahaj schools. Okay. Now, what is set here when it comes to Hatha Yoga, okay, that of the body, that when Kundalini awakens, what happens is that all the Nadi systems, all of this have to be cleared. And one enters into doing a Hatha Yoga spontaneously. Again, it's Sahaj. It's a spontaneous happening, not something that one goes to a school and says, do this movement, do that movement. When one awakens this Kundalini, one enters into doing these spontaneous yoga moves, spontaneous hand mudras. Sometimes spontaneous mantra will come as well. And all of these are to connect pathways that need to be connected to allow things to come up that one needs to see and go beyond. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that out a little bit about the Sahaja. What is the Sahaja Samadhi that remains when one falls away into that seed essence, Parabrahman, is absolute, okay? That this path has always been a tantric path. The true tantric is the one whose mind has stilled, okay? That's a true tantric master. Buddha was a tantric master, okay? And this is a totally different type of the tantra than what you hear being peddled in the West. What's being peddled in the West is a what would you say? It's a fallacy. It's a fraudulent type of a tantra. It's not the genuine tantra, which leads to dispelling, cutting through the ego identification, cutting through the drama of mind, cutting through all of those things to a natural Sahaja state of being. Okay. So again, what's given here in this path is very tantric in nature. The mantras that are given are there to cut through mind. Okay. There are other mantras given which are given to expand, to open one's awareness, to start to expand the heart center. And then when one has reached that expansion in those first levels of samadhi states, then one goes through behind that and starts cutting these threads of mind, okay, these threads of identification. All of these things get cut until what remains is one eventually goes into a Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And then, if the work has all been done correctly, one should come out on the other side in a Nirvikalpa Sahaja Samadhi that's ongoing. Okay? That's what remains here. Okay? So if one wants to understand that, they can read the Turiyata. That's a good one, a good text on that. One can also look up and do some research into the various states of samadhi, the Nirvikalpa Sahaja Samadhi or the Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi states, okay? So I just wanted to bring that in as a little reference point for end of path, what remains. And at this point, I'm waiting until Siddhananda comes to the point of that total falling away into that Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And then there are other things that I want to bring in at that time to help to stabilize where she is at, to remain in a Sahaja Nirvikalpa Samadhi rather than rerouting of mind. Okay, but it's a very good prognosis that's happening now, since everything is slowing and stilling for her, extreme slowing and stilling. That points in the direction that when she goes into that Nirvikalpa, Kevala Nirvikalpa Samadhi, that she should come out the other side with a Sahaja, Nirvikalpa Sahaja Samadhi, ongoing. Okay. So what we want on this path is, again, not everyone is ready for it, because it's a very difficult path to have a genuine Kundalini awakening. It goes 24/7. There's no on and off switch with it, okay? And one has to go through all the phenomena and all the drama and the dark night as a soul and all of the different various things that come up that can really delude one and pull one off the path if one doesn't understand what to look for, where to go, what to not chase after, one can get lost in that. There are a number of stumbling blocks that can come up on one's path. Again, this is where understanding of the various God's energies and what they're doing, what they're pointing, referencing to is of great value, and why it's really beneficial to have a guru that has done the whole of the journey and understands what's a viable way to go versus what can be a dead end and can be a trap along the way. Okay. So I just wanted to bring out a little bit more and talk about the path of the Tantric. Okay. Some people, they hear Tantra in India and they think it's black magic, black arts. You hear say Tantra here in the West and they think it's sex. It's not black magic. It's not sex. There's a very high path of Tantra. Okay, and this is why I don't mention too much about Tantra, because there are so many, again, just like Kundalini, so many fallacies being promoted about it, that really to find anything authentic in Tantra now is very difficult, just as it's very difficult to find an authentic Kundalini completed guru, okay, that can awaken it and can guide it to completion. Very difficult to find nowadays. I can find many, there are quite a few that can awaken Kundalini, but they're still in the midst of their own journey, have not completed, therefore do not know the whole way to the end of the journey. Okay. Again, most of the tantric things were, a lot of it was done in Bengal area. Okay. Again, has very close ties with Kali. Okay. And it was done by many of the Tibetan monks. My last life was as a Tibetan monk, okay, has been verified by a Tibetan community when I was up in Dharamsala. They were quite surprised that I was in this lifetime as a woman, having completed what I did last lifetime, and going forward this time. But again, like I told them then, and I will tell you now, more and more masters are taking form as female, because that balance needs to come into place again. You know, it's been under the male genre for so long, and it's losing its viability. It's becoming quite polluted, and so more and more masters will be coming in female form for this time. I will leave it there because I'm sure that's going to create a lot of controversy. Okay, I'm used to controversy, okay? You know, it's kind of like that one story that Waitara, she was out doing her practices. And they go, oh, your practices are so lovely. Maybe next time you'll be fortunate enough to be born a male so you can become a Buddha. And she said, I'm already a Buddha. And I vow that all of my lifetimes from now on forward will be born as female. Okay? So don't judge a book by the cover. Okay, don't think again. Then I'll bring this up now. I get so many people that say, "Oh, you can't understand Hinduism. You're not Indian. You can't enter realization. You're not Indian." Okay. Well, I have news for you. Most of the Indians that I have met, gurus, etc., have not even read all of the ancient texts from the golden age of India. Read the Ramayana, the Vedas, the Upanishads, not only the Bhagavad Gita, but the Uddhava Gita. Okay? If you want to know about the genuine golden age of India, read the texts from that time when the rishis were writing the texts. Read the ones from that time. Okay? And then you'll get a clearer picture of what was there, what's viable, what's not. God does not wear an Indian face. Okay? God is without form. Okay? It's that formless is. Yes, when it projects out here, all of us that are projecting out here have some sense of a form around us, but that is not who and what we are at the core of being. In the core of being, it's only one singular essence. Okay? Even prior to that one. We say one, but it's actually zero. But that brings a lot of complication for people in Divide Mind to understand what that means, okay? Even though I went a little bit into it in this thing. I had one, I'll say one more funny story. When I was living in Rishikesh, I was speaking with somebody, and this maths professor was there. He's written papers that only maybe 15 people in the world would understand. And we started speaking and became close because I was talking to somebody and said, no, God cannot be the one. God has to be the zero. And he overheard it, and he understood it completely. And he asked if I was a maths. I said, math is my absolutely worst subject ever. I'm definitely not, versed in math. But I thought it was very interesting because his thought process is always in math equations. And I thought that was very interesting that somebody can actually think in math equations. Okay. But we had a very good talk. He said maybe one day he'll do a leisurely inventory of his life. But then he said, and maybe I don't want to find out right now. Anyway, to go through and find out what, to go back to discover what that zero is, what that primal is. He understood it logically. He could get where that was. So that's how we developed a very nice relationship, had some very interesting talks when I was living in Rishikesh, which is unfortunately at one time the place of rishis. Now it's become nothing more than just hawking yoga courses and this and that, and everybody's, Shanti Om, and come into my store. It's a lot of fake sadhus there, not doing their practices. They're just running bakshish, and they know me very well there because I put out papers against these fake sadhus. I did see a few, very, very few, genuine sadhus coming through that would not be asking for money, not be, smoking hashish, would not be, they were actually doing their practices. And when you see some sadhus that are actually engaging in their practices at that point, then you leave a donation for them. That's the way it's done. When I lived in Rishikesh and I lived in the sadhu life, yes, I lived the sadhu life for some time, quite some time. I would go out and I would sit to the banks and just do all of my meditations, all of my practices, and people would see that and they would leave offerings at your feet. They'll leave some fruit, or they'll leave, a little bit of money. They'll leave something because they understand that you're benefiting society and mankind by doing genuine practices. Okay. So that's the way it works. If you are a sadhu, I would go up to these fake sadhus and say, are you a sadhu or are you a beggar? If you're a beggar, don't disgrace the cloth of the sadhu. Take it off. Be a beggar. But don't disgrace what this represents. Okay? So again, I've always been very hard on those things and saying, if you're doing a spiritual path, do the spiritual path. And this is why I continue to speak out against ones like Nityananda, Osho. I spoke out against Osho. I spoke out against Sai Baba. I spoke out against Maharishi, Mahesh Yogi. Because they're presenting shows, not the genuine spirituality that's going to take one to liberation, okay? So this has been ongoing for me. Don't think that I am, simply jealous of Nityananda or any of this. Not what's there to be jealous of? I fell away into moksha since 1999. Since then, I've been a Kundalini completed guru. I didn't become a guru in a dream. My guru commissioned me to do this. Vast difference, okay? He looked at my consciousness, saw where it was, and at that point said, that you're in the Advaita mind, and recognized Sahaja, Nirvikalpa Samadhi going on, and said it's time for you now to go and work with humanity, to give what you can give back to humanity. So I took that on and have done that and have been honest to that calling. It hasn't been easy. I've gone under a lot of fire for working on the internet. First of all, I had to break through a lot of drama, being dragged through the mud, because I work on the internet. One-to-one. And this is why I get so many nasty, nasty people coming. Because most gurus, quote-unquote gurus, have a bevy of people around them, and they don't let people get close to them. If you'll notice, so you can come and see whatever you want to say about me, but will Nityananda spend one day on the internet to answer any questions? To give you one-to-one time if you have a question, something that's... No. No. None of these types, a big popular type of guru will give you the time of day. Okay? A genuine guru will give you the time of day. They spend time with the serious seekers and will give them that one-to-one interaction because they want to see you move forward. It's not based on how much money you have. Okay? How many courses you can buy. It's based on one's willingness to walk a path in a genuine way, to open themselves to moving forward in their life, in their consciousness, to aid humanity. Okay? So there's where the difference is on that order. So I think we will close this out now. So again, this has been a little bit about Tantric Path, which is a path of going to the stilling of mind into the Nirvikalpa Sahaja Samadhi state, okay, which is an ongoing state of quietude, where yes, one can still work in the body, but one is always conscious, ever present, of that is the absolute, that primal self, okay? Before the ego self is born, that primal self, okay? Now, again, this is not the same self as most people think. When they think myself, they think of all the egoic things that they've collected, and they term that themselves. when I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that is prior to that. That self that you talk of is illusion, delusion. Okay? I'm talking about what is prior to that. That light beyond lights. That life of all life and the death of all death. That eternal is. That singular is. Eternal God. That which keeps the law of karma in motion. You understand once you, within that spontaneity of that is, that divine is, why the laws are in place that are in place and how they cannot be done away with. Okay? Why this light is always stronger than darkness. One understands that this darkness and negativity starts with some seed of truth somewhere, and then it's been skewed so far away from the truth that it bears no resemblance to it. And the further it's pulled away from the light, really, the less ability it has, the less energy it has. It can sit there and try to make it seem like it's got a lot. Okay? If you've ever run across a demonic entity, not too many have, but if you've actually seen the real demonic entity, and it's spitting, and it's growling, and it's cursing, you know, and you go up and say, you got nothing. One finger in the third eye and they're done. That's it, gone, finished. Okay? If you've actually ever encountered this, okay, and you stand in that light of truth, and you know the truth from the fallacy, as Christ said, fear not. As Kali says, fear not. There are blessings. There's nothing to fear. Fear not. Okay? Come forward. Fear not. For the greatest demon that they fight in the end is ego. Okay? And when one cuts the head of ego, what happens? There is liberation that takes place. Okay? So much more that we could speak on that subject, on Kali, how she functions, how she works, how she benefits that seeker, life, death, why meet, why these things, which I get so much flack on, but has been proven time again as to the benefit of what it is. Okay. So any of those that are interested, again, I do have the book out, which, of course, Nityananda's people have run over and slammed. If you look, all the verified reports, people that have actually bought the book, read it, and used it, are 5-star. They've all, again, had great benefit. There was not one negative review ever until November 25th, when all of Nityananda's little henchmen went over and put negative reviews up. Okay? So, again, this one is a benefit not only to people that have an awakened Kundalini, but really anybody that's a serious student on a path and wants to go beyond the mind play into that Sahaja stillness. It can give a lot of very good pointings for that as well. So anybody goes through fears, goes through all these other things. So if you read it, you understand how to go beyond that, how to counteract that, what to do in your life to move you forward, how not to get caught up in the mind spin. It's got a few different practices, things to do in there. Again, you know, and this comes out of many lifetimes of dedication and this lifetime over 40 years that was put into the path. But it's also, like I said, had many, many lifetimes before that, which are remembered as well. So, again, if you're interested, Kundalini from Hell to Heaven, you can get it on Amazon for really sometimes quite cheap. And so I hope that it continues to help many other people. And, Nietzsche on to spin doctors, your things are coming down soon. So just to let you know, really in the end, you're not going to prevail. So, namaste. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Continue on your paths forward to liberation. Okay, it's not an easy journey, but well worth it when one comes to the end. Okay, namaste.